Howdy, and welcome back to You've Got People Problems, the podcast where we tackle the leadership challenges that no one wants to talk about, but every business faces. I'm your host, Mel Ortiz with Activate Human Capital Group, and this is episode 31. Today we're talking about one powerful tool for protecting retention and building loyalty, with my guest, Jenna Dillon, CEO and founder of the Executive Performance Institute for Coaching. Jenna's an executive coach who works one-on-one with top leaders to help them navigate high-pressure environments, refine their leadership skills, and create long-term engagement with their teams. In this conversation, she shares how a process called journey mapping can help executives think differently, challenge assumptions, and build stronger, more resilient organizations. If you want to better understand how to keep your top talent engaged and loyal while strengthening your own leadership, this episode is one you won't want to miss. Let's get to it. Howdy, y'all, and welcome to You've Got People Problems. I am Melissa Ortiz, and today I'm so excited to have Jenna Dillon with me. She is the CEO and founder of the Executive Performance Institute for Coaching, and someone that I respect tremendously. I think her insights are amazing. She listens better than maybe anyone I've ever met. And today, instead of listening, she's going to be doing a lot of talking. And so our topic today is one great tool for protecting retention and building loyalty. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart that I've been working on for the last almost 20 years. So I'm really excited, Jenna, to hear your perspective on this. But before we go there, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your organization to make sure I didn't leave anything out.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And that was a very kind introduction. Thank you. A little bit about me. I'm an executive coach. I work one-on-one with top executives and companies. So that can be founders, business owners, think even like the chair of boards, C-suite executives. I really work one-on-one with them so that they can learn how to develop skills to navigate the situations that they are in and the demands of what's called for them. So I really look at creating a customized tailored track for their development so that they can ultimately be optimal and most successful. That's the nutshell of what I do. But I also have fun. Like, it's not super serious and technical because, come on, we're not like having lives on the table here, like where it's life or death. So I like to think we have some creativity in the mix.
And it sounds like a lot of your clients are people who don't have someone to lay out a roadmap for them. So having an outside set of eyes and someone to help them down that pathway is a real need in their careers if they're going to keep growing.
Oh, yeah. Like by the time that I meet these clients and they start working with me, they're so used to being heads down, hustle mode, grinding away, usually 60 plus hours a week. And because they're so used to being heads down, part of what I bring in the value is being that Jiminy Cricket, if you will, on their shoulder, where I can go, hey, well, have you thought about this? Or I'm going to challenge your thinking and be a thought partner with you to help your brain literally start getting used differently. That's kind of the psyche part of my work, right? Though the nature of our conversation tends to be very business focused. So business acumen meets psyche acumen is one of the things I like to say.
Amazing. Well, for those of you who are listening because you know Jenna and you don't know me, my name is Melissa Ortiz and my organization is Activate Human Capital Group. And really, I think the name probably is very intentional. We activate human capital in a more intentional way. Our job is to make sure you've got the right people in the right seats, make sure that they're engaged and performing at high levels, because not only does that benefit your organization, it also tends to benefit your internal and external customers and the individuals themselves. And so this mutual benefit is something that has been continually fascinating to me for almost 20 years. And same as you, Jenna, I'm having fun. I'm playing in the sandbox. We're solving people problems. And that's really where this podcast came from, was we all have people problems. But so often I think leaders think, well, that's HR's problem. But we're the problem. We're the leaders. We are the ones proactively who should be solving the problems and sometimes reactively. But I'm really looking forward. Let's dive right in. Talk to us about this tool that you want to introduce and how can it benefit us personally and professionally?
Yeah, so the tool is actually creating a journey experience for whomever the demographic is that you're wanting to create. So think about if anyone's heard of the term journey mapping, it often will get used in like a marketing situation or marketing service or business development. And it's where you can really start curating from start to finish, what's the experience you want a person to be having, or a group or demographic you want them to be having, right? So we can talk about a prospect coming into your sales process. We can talk about the start of an onboarding experience with a new employee that just got hired on to the end of their onboarding and training. We can talk about the whole experience and life cycle of an employee, period. You can apply this to any type of person that you are focused, that's a key stakeholder in the nature of your company and organization.
That's interesting. So we're not talking just employee loyalty. We're talking about client loyalty.
Yes. Vendors. We can talk about even referral partnerships, right? This I have seen in so many of the clients that I've worked with has been able to help their business grow their loyalty within their current customers, grow their employee retention, and grow their employee loyalty, where they're getting more employees hired through the friends or colleagues, former colleagues, or even family members from their current employees. And it's building a stronger culture than they imagined because of this tool. So if I were to give you kind of a glimpse, right? Like, let's get into like some of the details here.
Okay.
Why don't you pick, actually, Melissa, let's pick an experience that you think would be applicable for us to like kick around in our conversation today.
Okay, so I'm thinking about a client of mine. They're the San Diego County Fair. They have 100 employees, 120 employees. And then for their month-long fair, they bring on another 1,000 paid and volunteer employees. So we have this like short-term period where we have paid and unpaid people. Maybe we pick one of them. Like, I say volunteers because they're giving you time and energy in return for an experience.
Yep.
And then they're really only there 5 to 6 weeks, and then they go back to their merry lives.
Yep.
So let's map that. I think that'd be
Let's
interesting.
look at that. Okay. And I would imagine, I'm just going to throw a little assumption out here that with these volunteers, it would be ideal for them to keep having the volunteers want to come back.
Yes, I believe so as well. They have some that have been there a very long time. We've done their employee engagement surveys, and gosh, these volunteers have some really long-term specialized knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. So the first thing before you start creating this journey is you want to identify, like, why is it that they're doing this? Like, what are their motivators and what are the objectives that you want to be accomplishing, that they want to be accomplishing and that you want to be accomplishing with them? So example, we want to make sure that these employees are not just satisfied by their experience in these volunteers are satisfied by their experience in volunteering, but what is it that they are literally doing to volunteer to please the people that they're, connecting with, right? So there's certain objectives here. So let's look at that. What objectives can you think of off the top of your head with this situation?
Objectives for the volunteer or for the organization?
Let's do both.
So I'm thinking, if I'm someone who's been involved in, say, like setting up all the art exhibits, that this might be a creative outlet for me. This might be a time to reconnect with other volunteers. Maybe I'm retired from a full-time gig, and this is something that's just kind of a passion project for me and something that I get joy from seeing coming to fruition and talking to people about during the fair.
Great. So there's community that they might value and get from the experience. There's it could be fulfillment and them being able to give back in some way and be generous, right? And just connection, right? Like, they want to be able to connect and have meaningful conversations with people and experiences with people. So if we're looking at that, then we want to make sure they feel that. We want to make sure that they can hear that and that they can feel that and get that experience. So then I would ask, if I was working with the client, if I'm working with a leader that's responsible for creating this experience, then I'd say, okay, well, what are little things, little drips or touch points that they could have from the time they show up that day to the time they're done with their volunteer hours that would allow them to feel valued and appreciated, right? And then you could ask them, well, what things could we do that we're kind of sprinkling in their experience of what we could do with them, what we could say to them, what we could give to them, so that they are not only having the kind of experience we want them to, but we're even putting a little signature action or signature question or signature to the organization, right? So for example, I've had a company that I've worked with for a while, and one of the things that they really pride themselves in is feeling like their culture is like a family. So
Okay.
they say at the end of a meeting with a one-on-one employee, we love you being a part of our family, right? That's something that the leaders wanted to make sure they said to all of their direct reports or their teams that they're overseeing in their one-on-ones. We love that you're a part of our family, right? It's like a little signature, if you will,
Yep.
to like a meeting, right? And so think of, and this is something specific, obviously, to each organization, is
Right.
what are the signatures? And it doesn't have to just be oh, we're going to say this thing. It could be a question you ask. It could be, oh, we create a build your own adventure experience, right? Or it could be the kind of experience you create, the kind of environment you create. It could be the fact that you say a joke every time you come in and people start, then it's a call and response back that they get used to. But what's the signature, or what are the signature moves, if you will? Like, what
I
are
like that.
right?
Yeah.
And so the key here around these quote unquote signature moves, and I giggle, I can't not giggle when I talk about it, is not only can it be really fun for the leaders of an organization to figure out what those are, because it's a creative ideation process,
Yeah.
right? But then being able to do it and you'll see right there, like if it worked. You'll see in the response, you'll see and then people love routine and people love learning new patterns, especially if you can interrupt a pattern that they were anticipating you were going to do instead.
Ooh, go down that path a little.
Yeah. So when people do a signature, it's going to stand out because it's not what someone expects. Like if you have a one-on-one, right, you're not going to expect your, direct boss or supervisor to be able to say, we love that you're a part of our family here, right? Like that's just not something you're used to hearing.
Yeah.
So it's usually something else, something along the lines of, thanks for meeting with me today, and we'll revisit these next steps in the next 6 months, like something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so because it isn't what's expected or what is anticipated in the pattern, it's called a pattern interrupt. And the more you can do these pattern interrupts, psychologically, it grabs people's attention and makes them go, oh, what was that? Oh, I liked that, or I didn't like that, or that was surprising, right? And regardless, I mean, yes, you do want to care what that emotion is or thought is that they have. And it's very valuable to be able to include and intentionally integrate, that's what I'm looking for, these pattern interrupts to keep and sustain their attention. It also helps with memory.
Okay, so a couple things coming to mind for me as we
Okay.
talk about this. Um, One is the creative aspect of, like you were saying, you'll see really quickly, did that work or not? Or was that just a flop?
Yep.
And it seems like if we're going to try this out and be creative and put ourselves out there, that we have to expect that some of them won't work. They just will land flat, and we'll say, okay, that one was not a winner.
Right.
Okay.
And then you can laugh about it. And then you're like, oh, great, you're human. And hey, you can even make fun of yourself. Like I do this all the time, by the way. Whenever I try to be funny in trading rooms, I'm not. Like, okay, like if I try to be funny, I'm not. And then I literally will out myself and go, ooh, this is either a tough crowd or I'm a bad comedian in this space. And it's funny, right? Like, so
Yeah.
it's like it's how you handle oh, that didn't work. I'm gonna try that again. Stay tuned next week, right? Like how you handle it, right, is everything. Yeah.
I love that. And then I will say one of my favorite pattern interrupts is, and I use it personal and professional, darn near every phone call I make, whether it's to a client, my mom, anybody in between, is, hey, good time or bad time? And I think when people answer the phone, they assume you're just going to launch right in. And I love giving this permission to say, especially with some people I know, my mom is one of them, bad time, I'll call you back in 3 minutes. Great, no problem. But it was like, I want to show you the respect of answering the phone, but actually, I probably shouldn't have answered the phone.
Right.
And so it's this gift of respect to say, I'm probably catching you at a bad time. Is there a better time for us to talk?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I find I get myself on where so much of my life is appointmentized
Mhm.
that I'm almost always on appointments. So it's like I assume I'm going to catch most people at a bad time. And it just, I don't know, sometimes it becomes playful and sometimes it's just
Yeah.
healthy respect. But
Absolutely. And there can be, I mean, that's a beautiful example, Melissa, of being able to be effective and light and playful and empathetic or understanding of people at the same time,
yeah,
right? So there can be this beautiful blend of these qualities where it doesn't have to be so serious and corporate feeling to create these experiences for people, because ultimately, and I know that you talk about this in every episode, we're human. So let's treat each other like humans, right? Not robots. We got a lot of AI for that. Let's treat each other like humans while also being really effective and having fun. So this, and it's particularly called a journey experience because it's meant to be an experience, not a linear process necessarily, right? It takes two to tango. So sometimes in the case of your phone call, it's a question, and based off of what they say in that answer means you do this. If they say yes, you do A. If they say no, you do B, right? And that's part of the journey experience. So how can teams preemptively cultivate and curate an experience that perhaps the volunteer would never expect that, or never expect or not even see that they intentionally curated that experience, but at the end of them volunteering, they go, gosh, like this really stood out. This was super memorable. I really enjoyed my time here. And they won't even know why that is, but it's because there's different pieces
it
of
was
a
so
puzzle
intentional.
that was so intentional. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, like I do it in most, not all, because sometimes I'm asked to do a training very promptly and just step in for somebody with like a 24-hour notice, and I was like, got it. But most of the time, if it's not that, I start to play with the tools and techniques of how I know how to grab people's attention and keep them engaged and hold their engagement while creating a experience that I've curated ahead of time for them to think, feel, and have by the end of the time that we're done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm writing these down because I always take tips and tricks for the end. So I want to make
Yeah.
so what outcome do we want sure to make sure that they think, feel, and have? Maybe not outcome. What experience do we want to
Yes.
ensure?
Yep. So you're kind of getting these puzzle pieces in place. What do we want them to think, feel, believe? We mentioned earlier objectives that that person would want to accomplish, and then the objectives that the organization would want to
Oh.
accomplish, and then identifying signatures, like your mood.
Jenna, how, if I'm in the organization, how can I pull myself out of the forest to see the trees and be able to get this bird's eye view? I feel like that's one of the big challenges. We're so close to it. It's hard to zoom out and really see this bigger picture. Does it really require a facilitator to take us out of the day to day, or do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I love that. So you can capture it's actually in your best interest to capture real data on what other people are experiencing so that you're not just focused on what you think people are experiencing or what specifically you only are experiencing, because that doesn't mean that's everybody, right? So let's use the example of the volunteers. Let's say when they first came in to sign in for that day, that when they got their, I don't know, when they got their name tag, they had a 3 question form to fill out as part of their check-in. And one of those questions was, let's see, I'm going to make this up on the spot. Um, why, like, uh, check all that apply on what you're excited about today. Now, that's a seed that plants in their psyche to be excited about the things that they check off. It's
Yeah.
also great data to know what's motivating them to be there.
Okay.
That's great for the organization to know. And
Yeah.
then let's say they have a lunch break, and there's something in the lunch break that while they're talking to each other, they do a quick pause to thank everyone that's there so far. And they do a, hey, raise your hand if you are here because you heard about the organization or had a friend tell you to recommend that you come here, right? And then raise your hand if you, and they're doing a little thing of gauging other data. And then at the end, when they walk, before they leave, by the end of their day for them volunteering, there's some sort of quick, hey, we emailed you, or we sent you this link, or scan this QR code, and we just have 5 questions that we would love for you to fill out to figure out how we can keep this experience getting better and better and better, not just for you, but for the people that you are engaging with.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you are capturing, now these are just simple examples that I'm mentioning on the fly, but there's also data digitally, like what's the engagement like with I'm going to use a different example with employees. What's their performance like? How can we get an idea of what to track and how to track it to be able to gauge their experience, not just their performance? If you can engage, if you can, excuse me, be able to gauge their experience, that can be just as valuable in gauging their performance. Because you don't want employees, as you know, to burn out and hate where they're working and their experience, even if they're high performers, right?
Especially if they're high performers. And one of the things I see in the data is we collect a lot of employee engagement data. And one of the things that I see is we have these great performers who are the right fit in the role. So huge predictor of disengagement is if you're in the wrong seat in the first place.
Yep.
But if you're in the right seat, one of the things that is a huge problem is if there are things that are distracting, say there are policies and procedures that are making your work 10 times as hard as it should be, or collaboration between department issues that you can't get the answers you need for the customers that you're serving, those create so much dissonance. And if we can identify those and start to understand and eradicate them, all of a sudden these high performers get to go back to work. And they feel grateful that you were taking their feedback and doing something with it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. They feel heard and they feel seen and valued and that they have agency in the matter. Now, another thing with not just high performers, but anyone, but it does especially apply to high performers, is recognition, right? So, and you want to keep their interest, not just their engagement. That's another distinction. Well, how could you do that? Let's look at the example we keep going back to around the volunteers. Imagine when most people come to any event that they're a volunteer of, they have somewhat of an idea of what they're going to be doing. But what could be a really interesting, and dare I say interest, like it literally grabs their interest, right? It's not just like interesting pattern interrupt, is if all of a sudden they show up to an event and the people who are telling them how to do their activity and volunteering, it's gamified. And it's gamified between all the volunteers that are there. And whoever can get XYZ first gets this prize, or XYZ here gets this prize, like, right? And all of a sudden they're going, oh, this just created a whole other level. Watch me do this, right? And they just got more interested and more engaged because the experience that they're having, they're not only going to have fun, they're going to have more fun, and it's going to be gamified, right? That's a pattern interrupt. It's not what they're expecting. And it's a win-win-win in so many aspects, right? And then you have people who have high performed in that game that you can recognize, and then other surprise recognitions, again, pattern interrupt, that weren't even applicable to the game.
Not to mention, going back to your comment about fun, there's a great example from just the last couple of months. My daughter asked me to come to her school for an assembly. She's in the leadership program in junior high school. And she said, will you come to this assembly? It's the back to school assembly. Okay, great. I had 25 minutes between meetings and her school's only across the street. So I jam over there. I'm in the back of the room and it's so cute. They're doing the school values as a teachers versus students family feud.
Oh my gosh.
Generally talking about school values is snooze alert for 7th, 8th,
yeah, right,
6th graders. Meanwhile, these kids and the teachers are super engaged. It's fun, it's playful. And then the other thing that they did was they took some of the core school rules and they did skits on them. And they were hysterical. The kids are laughing, the teachers are laughing. And I went, oh my gosh, they took something that was so boring and gamified it. And you have some pretty skeptical audience in terms of middle and junior high schoolers who were totally engaged. And I just went, wow, well played, teachers, well played.
Yes. Yes. And so one thing that, and whether they meant to do this or not, There's a term that I actually learned early on in my formal training and executive coaching called unveiling. And part of what I think can help someone start to understand how to look at the forest and not just be in the trees that you mentioned earlier is unveiling. It's looking at the context of what's happening in a meeting or in that experience, not just the content of what's being talked about. And if we can go from speaking in the content of what we're talking about to the context of the experience at the same time, like, Melissa, I'm having a ball with this. This is so much fun. I feel like we're just bouncing this off and this is like great, right? That can actually enhance the experience in and of itself, right? So unveiling, being able to go from the content to the context and addressing it or recognizing or sharing your observations can be extremely valuable.
Interesting. Does that apply, Jenna, to taking us out, it's setting a tone for a meeting, say? We're coming together, we have it on our calendar, we're going to do some journey mapping, even if it's just the first draft of an employee onboarding experience. And just the person who sets the tone for a meeting, whether it's I want you to put yourself back in your original onboarding shoes, or think about the most recent employee we've onboarded and kind of take ourselves out of the meeting you just left, the notes you just took, the to-dos that are on your to-do list. Is that in the same space as unveiling, or is that maybe a different?
I appreciate the question. That I would say is you putting yourself in somebody else's shoes to get perspective from another angle.
Okay.
Or to see something from another angle. What unveiling is the literal situation and meeting or conversation that you're having right now. You go from talking about talking in the conversation to talking about the conversation.
Okay.
Like how, like it's like a facilitator in the middle of a meeting that you're putting a strategy or plan together, going, hey, I want to check in. How are we feeling about this? So are we moving along in the right direction?
Okay.
See, that's talking about the meeting versus diving into the plan.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Good question.
There's so many interesting
There's so many little
avenues to
pieces
go down.
to this. Yes. And so that's why I say like this tool, while it might be complex, I mean, I know we're kind of spiffing and I'm giving a lot of information here.
Yeah.
Like literally for the listeners, if any 2 or 3 things that we have talked about have resonated, jot it down and just focus on applying one at a time. Because this is a skill to develop. And dare I say, it's a fun one. So imagine that this could be your new autopilot and you listen to this episode, you have your 2 or 3 things that Melissa and I have talked about, and you want to apply it to you, do it. And then 3 months from now or 2 months from now, once you feel like you've gotten the hang of those 2 or 3 things, listen back and pick other 2 or 3 things, right? And then keep adding it to your little mix and library of how to incorporate this in a number of different settings.
So Jenna, I'm hearing you say I don't have to journey map an entire experience, make it all better, do 400 extra things all at once.
Yeah.
Pick 1 or 2 things I want to improve in employee onboarding. I can pick 1 or 2 things I want to do in terms of client retention and helping my clients feel I appreciate them. I can do 1 or 2 things in my personal life to make sure my friends know how much I appreciate them.
Yep.
But I don't have to reconfigure my entire world all at once.
Yes, absolutely. And bite-size it, right? Okay. I know you're laughing, but it's like, yes, so often us humans, especially for those of us that are high performers, which I call myself a recovering perfectionist, so that should say enough, is we tend to go, ooh, I like this idea. Okay, I want to make sure I learn all the parts and apply all the parts. Go.
I'm going to do the whole thing right now. I'm going to read the whole book.
And I better get an A. Yes, I better score 100 or whatever, right? And while, yes, like do bite-size it, the key things to focus on how to make sure it's effective is, well, what's the evidence or the proof of what is working or what isn't working? Like be able to have some data to be able to discern what parts to do first. Like what little sprinklings or enhancements or signature moves are you going to do, if you will, and have it be backed up by evidence? We think this will help, and here's why, right? So you got to have the data and you got to be clear on the objectives. Like we said earlier, we got to like start at the top of going, well, what's the experience we want them to have in order for those objectives to be met, right?
Yeah, the data is a really hard one. I'm thinking about, I'm on a school board And one of the eternal frustrations has been finding years of tenure,
Mhm.
years of service
Yep.
recognition, a lapel pin, a floral arrangement. It seems like everything we've tried has not resonated because one of the things I find is recognition is so personal.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to do a blanket recognition for people who all perceive perfect recognition for them so personally has been a real challenge. And so we've gone to apparel that you get to pick. Here's a catalog you get to pick
Yes.
from. And it's just been a really hard nut to crack,
Yeah. Has
which
that catalog helped?
it
Have you seen?
has.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we just got so much negative feedback in terms of data
Mm-hmm.
that was really underwhelming. And gosh, the last thing we want to do with a 30-year employee is underwhelm them.
Right.
And it's, I do a lot of work with companies finding out one of our employee engagement surveys is the recognition I receive is perfect for me. Talk
Mm-hmm.
about a high bar to get a 5 on perfect for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably my supervisor needs to know how much I love hot tamales. And every once in a while, when I knock it out of the park, a $2 box of hot tamales showing up on my desk with like a sticky note that says you rocked it would
Make your day.
to make my month,
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
if I savor them long enough, or just really stick to my ribs. And if they
Yeah.
really knew me, they would also know that secondhand compliments are my absolute love language. You might give me a compliment and I'll probably discount you because you're being nice or you like to give compliments to make yourself look good. But if you hear from someone else, I did a good job, and then you feedback that back to me, it's absolutely genuine. And you took the time to tell me.
Mhm.
That's talk about a specific pathway, but wow, something that'll stick. What's the Mark Twain quote? Um, the oh gosh,
Or no, which
I
one
could
is it?
live I could live a month on a good compliment
Oh,
and just the right phrasing, the right specificity
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that my brain Mark Twain quote really started to go to the coldest summer I ever spent was a winter or winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco, and I was like, no, wrong Mark Twain quote.
Yeah, 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 yeah. All good, all good. But even with what we're talking about, it's like when I even watch, not just here, because it is changing in your tone of voice, but when I watch you talk about these things that have so much meaning to you, you light up. And so the key here is how can people in organizations that are running organizations learn this? Well, you gotta ask. You gotta not just ask, but you gotta care, and you gotta ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And I don't usually say the right questions, but I mean like questions where they are meaningful and they show you care. Like, for instance, I'll give a simple example, and then I'm gonna kick it back to you and you come up with a question. We'll like play a little game.
Okay.
Okay. So if I were to ask somebody to like really get to know them, I'd say, hey, like if you had a weekend doing whatever you wanted and you had as much money and time as you wanted that whole weekend, how would you be spending your time? I learn a lot about what they care about.
Wow. Do we need another question?
I mean, no pressure, Melissa.
One of the questions I love in this space, Jenna, I'm still like, wow, my brain wants to go on the path of what would I do?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
One of the best questions I really enjoy is what's the best recognition you've ever received?
Mm,
And
and why? Yeah.
yeah, and I then pairing it with what's the best you could imagine
Mm.
tends to yield some really interesting results. I had one employee tell me, my face on a kite would be the best I could imagine. And I said, I restated to her, your face on a kite. And she said, yeah, yeah, I'm envisioning my face on a kite. And this I really couldn't understand why that was so important to her, but we actually took that feedback. We found she had this big blonde hair. We found a Barbie kite, and for her birthday one year, we superimposed her face on Barbie's face on the kite, and we hung it up in her office. And she was just so
That's
so
brilliant.
touched.
I love that.
And it's just, she probably was partially joking, but when we did it, she was just like, A, you remember, you heard me, you remembered, you did something. It cost us maybe $7 and 14
Exactly.
minutes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it stuck. And
Yes.
uh,
Yes. Where I know others who, I could give a box of hot tamales to a friend and they could love it and love that snack, but it's what I say to them when I give it to them. that I can tell can put tears in their eyes because they feel truly seen, and it's the words that mean the most, right?
Yeah.
So being able to ask open-ended, creative, meaningful questions is, and really truly listening. And then, of course, we're not like, this brilliant library where we can remember all these details. So how are you going to capture it? Right?
Yes.
Like capture it so that you can file save and refer back to it and give them something meaningful, whether it's a compliment, whether it's a gift, a literal tangible gift, or hey, I'm going to give you this experience so you can go and do this thing, whatever it is. Like it means the world to them. And they might even say, how'd you know that would make me feel so good? Because they forgot they even said it to you because it was a
Yes.
conversation 2 months ago or whatever,
Yes. And the thing you said that I think really resonates with me is capturing it because we can hear
Yes.
it, we can file it away, and then our brains can forget it. And so
Yes.
finding ways to capture that and bonus points if you do it across the organization so it makes it easier for other people. Like, what's your favorite sports team? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite beverage? Favorite local place to eat out? And if that's somewhere,
Yep.
and it's easy for people to access, suddenly we can make it easier for people to recognize each other in ways that sticks to their ribs. And we can, gosh, the one that always hurts my heart is the Starbucks gift card to someone who doesn't drink coffee. And we
Yeah.
actually do more harm than good because
Yep.
then they go, you don't even know me.
Right.
And you go, oh, but I was trying to do something nice. And I
Yep.
probably spent my own money on this and I missed the memo. But, they have scones and they have tea there, but
Hmm.
the message was, you don't
You
know.
don't know me. Yeah. This is a lazy gift or a lazy recognition. Yeah.
Yeah. And it didn't land. So I know we've gone way down this rabbit hole of the
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
It's like
But
this one piece, but recognition is such a critical part because being seen, we all want to be a valued member of a
mhm,
winning team on an inspiring mission. And
mhm,
that valued member means I'm bringing some contribution. And I don't know that
mhm.
probably until it's reflected back to me.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Well, and this applies. I mean, truly, what's an indicator that the journey you created didn't land and go well? They are underwhelmed and they don't feel like you really get them.
yeah.
And they
And
don't come back and their engagement lowers, etc.
And one of the things I think that's harder for the person on the giving end is the disappointment of, I tried so hard. I spent X amount of time, I spent X amount of dollars, and having the strength of character to say, okay, that didn't work. What do I know from that? And what can I try next? Who could I ask? How can I get this right next time? And
Yeah.
I think it's okay to feel sad for a minute, right? To say,
Absolutely.
oh,
Absolutely. And also give yourself grace. Like we're human. Great. We're perfectly imperfect, you know? So, oh, right. That's just me. Okay. It's this. I use the term from Anne Lamott. Thank you. Shitty first draft, right? Is like, okay, we got the shitty first draft done. Let's create the next one, right?
yes.
So it doesn't have to be a big hurdle of like, oh, I feel guilty now, right? It doesn't have to be that. In fact, expect to make different iterations because it's a creative process. It's a creative experience to cultivate and kind of fine tune the right curated experience that will work.
And I think one of the things I find for myself is often I don't think I'm the most fun person in the room. I'm often not
That's
the
hilarious because you're super fun, but go ahead.
I just know a lot of people who are way more fun than I am. And so I think not being afraid to crowdsource. Someone
Mm,
like my friend Hannah has so many great ideas. My
mhm.
friend Glenn is really good deep thinker. I will plant seeds with Glenn and say, "Will you think about this for me? Because I'm busy doing," and he'll come back to me with these great ideas. And my friend Hannah could brought her all 15 brainstormed ideas. And so I think I've gotten really good at crowdsourcing the things that I don't have a lot of confidence that I can do off the cuff
Yep.
because I know that's not the outcome. It doesn't have to come from my brain. I can start sourcing, and especially the more you crowdsource from people who that's their talent, that's their sandbox,
Yes.
and giving them the little bit of a gift to say, I see this in you. I need your help. I need to pull you in here. And for me, it's quality time with people I treasure, whether it's team members or outside my team, knowing I really am not the most fun. I only like the people I like. I don't like all the people. And I like
Hmm. Hmm.
but finding those people in my life has been such an asset to me. And so I think we often put a lot of like we were talking about, we put pressure to do the whole thing instead of a thing. And I think we put pressure on that it all should come from inside of us
Yeah.
rather than pulling and pooling our resources.
Yeah. This tool is meant to be a collaboration to do it, not someone doing it on their own. Because the more perspective you can have, like bring people in who aren't like you, but who let me say that different. Bring people in that are different from you on purpose because they will have new ideas, they will have different interests, different perspectives, and that's a strength to consider and to really have all people like be hands on deck with ideas, right? I mean, that makes it fun and more colorful, right? So being able to not put the pressure on yourself, but instead, this is light. We'll have plenty of ideas. Let's play. Let the games begin, right? Yeah.
I love that. Okay, I'm taking so much value out of this discussion. Talk to me about resources. If I want to go deeper down this path, are there books I should read? Have you recorded YouTube videos? Where would you recommend someone goes if they want to learn more? Because they like to be more of an expert before they jumped in and just make a shitty first draft.
Yes.
What resources should they look into?
So, first of all, you can Google or look up journey mapping. You'll see how it applies to marketing and even like business development and sales. And you can, I would say, look at the concept of that rather than the micro detail of it. And see how it can apply to any experience that you're having. Another resource that and some people know this about my background before I became a coach, and some people don't, is I actually have formal training in teaching. And so some even resources around teaching that can help you apply to this journey creation, if you will, are learning modalities. So there's processing modalities that we all start to engage in different ways when we're learning information, as well as retaining information. And this is sounding really technical, but bear with me here.
Okay, great.
I know people often will talk about like different learning styles. Well, those are debunked. I don't know. I don't know if everyone knows that. That's
Okay.
debunked. It doesn't apply. Like, but we're used to saying like, oh yeah, reading and writing, or visual learners, or audio learners, verbal learners, kinesthetic, tactile, that kind of thing. Those are debunked. But learning processing modalities are different, and being able to even take like 2 or 3 of those that aren't typical and engaging people through those processing modalities. Like, for instance, when you're gamifying something for volunteers, you're engaging them through a type of process to stay engaged that is not what they were expecting.
Okay.
You see? So that's
pattern
different.
interrupt.
Yes, it's pattern interrupt, and it's applying a different learning process or a different processing modality, right? So you can kind of look at, and it's out there for the world to see. It's not like somebody trademarks the learning processing modalities, right? They are what they are, and they're listed there that researchers, scientists have found for years. So that's one as well. And then outside of that, like, I mean, facilitators that know about journey mapping, but like I said, like people who are creatives, it's real important for the creatives to be in the room for that. Those will be your biggest asset. I think the more room for you to play versus for you to follow suit, if you will, the better. And I truly mean that, right? Because every experience will be different that you want to curate and create. And every situation and outcome will be different. So, including the demographic of the people that you're creating this experience for. So,
Yes.
play, and you'll be able to see, like I said, pretty instantly if it worked or not.
Sure. I will add on to that. I recently saw a gentleman named Joey Coleman. I'm guessing you might be familiar with
Yeah.
his book. He has 2 books. I saw him speak at an entrepreneurs organization event, EO, and the topic he was speaking on was his book, Never Lose a Customer Again. Very much in line with this. He's very
Yeah.
entertaining. I think he reads his own book if you're listening to the audio, and he has a corollary that's Never Lose an Employee Again. And I think there might be some really good examples in there of things other companies have done that you might be able to R&D, rip off and duplicate.
Yep.
because that's what as entrepreneurs we love to do. Is like, that's a great idea. I could do that too. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. And it
Yeah.
was very entertaining and the content seemed really valuable. And I've probably gotten stuck in the I'm going to do it all. And so my whole team needs to read his book before we do anything about this.
Yep.
So I'm
Yep.
taking this as my challenge to just go do something.
Yes. Yes. No, absolutely. And I'll add as like a unique next step of what you could do. Like I'm all for reading books, so don't get me wrong there. For those of you that you're just not in a reading stage or like you're just not feeling reading a book right now, go to a favorite insert professional like comedian
Okay.
or a person who's the top sales person at whatever company, or look at Apple and look at how is their advertising different? What are they doing differently on why they're so successful? Go to the people or the companies that are successful and go, why? Study it. Study the comedian. What are they doing? Like look at what they're doing, not living in the experience they've created for you.
Yeah.
Right? Like pick apart and just like study it. And you'll start to see, oh, their brand is when they do this little like cliff note thing at the end of their jokes, or when they have this little, I don't know, I'm making this up, like a gesture with their body, and it's funny every time people kind of laugh when they do it. You'll start to pick apart and go, oh, that's interesting. And it's like, got it pinned. Oh, and they do this thing too. There's a little pattern here. They say one, A, B, and instead of saying C, they completely change it and say something else, and that's what makes it funny. They do that a lot. That's like their thing.
Mm.
Okay, got it. Pinned. Like, right? So you kind of figure out like what are their signature moves, if you will, and what kind of an experience did they create that you were not expecting? There's I just was with some family the other week and we were watching, have you seen the TV show Chef's Table?
No.
Oh, it's so good. It's been on Netflix for many years, but every season it talks about a chef and their restaurant and their like gourmet meals, and it's beautifully done with the cinematography. But every single episode is a story about that restaurant and chef and how they came to create the plates that they have created. And the second, oh man, I'm like do a little dig or a little not a dig, a plug for this person. There's a chef by the name of Grant. I never remember his last name, but he is the chef of a restaurant in Chicago called Alinea. And they are the epitome of curating an experience for their people to come into their restaurant. They're like 2 or 3 Michelin stars. So one, the food's going to be great. But he even says in that episode, all of us that know how to make great food, we have to take it a step further. And somehow we have to figure out great food we can do easily. So what else are we going to be offering? And he says we have to create an experience for their mind from the time they walk into that restaurant to the time that they leave that restaurant. So even the way the restaurant is designed when you walk in, you're going down a hall that looks like an optical illusion for you to continue down the hall. And then the side of the wall opens up and the door to the restaurant's there. Right? And all of a sudden you're going, oh, pattern interrupt. That's a move. And there's a pattern to that kind of move to mess with you a little bit throughout that experience. Right?
Interesting. Yeah.
So there's, what about an experience you've had was surprising and you liked it and it wasn't what you expected, and then reflect on it. Why? What was different about it? Was it intentional? How did they do that?
Great. Well, in the interest of time,
Yep.
I'm gonna share with you some of the tips and tricks I have, and you can tell me I got it wrong, add something to it, add something that I missed.
Sure.
So I'm thinking about creating the really the discussion we've been having is around creating a journey experience, a journey map that
Mhm.
we shouldn't get too caught up in creating the entire map to start to finish, but we should start finding these points where we can make a difference, where we can make a connection, where we can gain some loyalty and some meaningful relationship that will benefit both parties. Really starting with a thought process around why are they engaging, whether it's for employment, for volunteer hours, for services, if we're thinking more clients, And what experience do we want them to have? What is the goal that we're working towards in changing the experience from the, what's the word? The status quo or the
The
unplanned.
norm. Yeah,
The
the
norm?
anticipated. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I might even say before identifying the experience, and you're doing great, Melissa. I would say before identifying the experience, what are the objectives that they want to accomplish? And what are the objectives you want to accomplish?
Okay.
Yep.
And tell us a little bit more about that, the objectives they want to accomplish. I think we talked about early on, especially for that volunteer group, or it could be for an employee group. The
Mhm.
objectives we want to accomplish, you're thinking about this is loyalty and connection and performance.
Yeah. So it can be not just what do they want to feel, think, and believe in that experience, but also, oh, you know what? An outcome, we want to have 75% of our volunteers come back to the next event.
Excellent. So we have a metric to see if we move the needle. Okay,
Yes.
great. I loved your comment on finding ways to gamify experiences.
Mhm.
Suggestion on capturing data along the way in a way
Yes.
that isn't too onerous because a 25-minute survey gets people irritated. It's called survey fatigue.
Yes. Yes.
And then I really liked your comment around finding the signature phrases, signature questions, little chants, anything that interrupts the pattern can get our attention.
Yes. Yes. And it's part of the experience you're wanting to, or the journey you're wanting to create. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. And then finding ways to look deeper, looking kind of backward, reverse engineering, whether they're comedians or a cooking show or finding a book, anything to help you down this path of learning more about the idea and then finding maybe some ideas you can rip off and duplicate or crowdsourcing from your team, your friends, your spouse, who cares where it comes from if it's a good
Yeah.
idea.
And do it. But the key is, especially when you're starting to create experience or curate an experience that you've developed, don't do it alone. Super key. Bring somebody in to bounce ideas off and build your perspective and ideas with you.
Great. Thank you. I feel like we could have spent a half-day workshop on this that
Yes.
has been beautifully curated, but I think we've touched on the surface of a really interesting and valuable asset for organizations, for-profit, nonprofit.
Yes. Across the board. Mhm.
Yeah. So if you'd like to learn more, if somebody would like to learn more about what you are doing, how should they reach out to you, Jenna?
Sure. So my name, Jenna Dillon, is my email. So jenna@jennadillon.com. Last name is spelled Dillon. And I'm also found on LinkedIn. So you're welcome to reach out to me and message me on that as well. I'd say those are the two main easiest ways to access me. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. If you'd like to look me up, LinkedIn is probably a great option, or our website is activatehcg.com, like Human Capital Group. And love to hear from you, Jenna. I can't wait to have you back on You've Got People Problems because we have something exciting cooked up for our next discussion.
You do.
And I'm going to leave that as a little mystery
Little
teaser.
cliffhanger.
Yeah. Okay. Super. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of You've Got People Problems. If you got something out of the conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with the other leaders in your network, because let's face it, we all have people problems. You can watch full episodes on YouTube or listen on your favorite podcast app. But either way, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.